Hi, it's Hal Halliday from Breakthrough Leadership, and welcome to Leading Remote Teams. This is part 3, and we're talking about creating stability today. Before we begin, I'd like to review what we talked about yesterday, which is why leadership matters in the current conditions. And there's 5 things. The condition of everybody working from home really amplifies the impact of ineffective and inattentive leaders. So be mindful of that. Your leadership challenge just got bigger, but you can adapt and lean into that. Your interactions and your understanding with remote employees determine their engagement level. And that's going to influence their performance and productivity. So this is a time to connect and pay attention. 3, we reviewed a study by Gallup that noted that trust, compassion, stability, and hope are the 4 things that have the most impact on people's lives from their leader. Number 4, keep a mindset to understand, empathize, and trust. And lastly, I gave you an assignment to ask your team what they were most concerned about, and then reflect, in working remotely, and then reflect on your role in creating any stress or anxiety or challenges for your employees. So that's our review from yesterday. Let's get started on today. When you create stability, there's a couple of things that are critical. First, realize that when the world is changing and moving daily, and that's where we're at right now, creating stability really is your leadership priority. Stability enables your team to focus on work instead of worrying about all the challenges that are around them, all the uncertainty and the volatility, right? So 2 things are critical for stability for working remotely. One is the physical space. Getting something locked down that works for people creates stability and then their ability to focus on their work. And 2 is psychological safety. The sense that they belong to a team and that they can trust that team and their leader. So let's start with physical space. Unfortunately, when we send everybody home to work from home, in many cases, I think we did so without any assessment, without any intentionality, and really without a plan. We just sent people home and said, good luck, go do it. Think about that from a business perspective. When you hire somebody in the old world, the pre-COVID times, and they came to your office, or they started remotely, you did everything you could to make sure they were set up for success. There was a tremendous amount of planning, process, and intentionality and preparation to make sure that your investment in that employee would pay off. So let's not forget that in these new conditions. I think what you can do is ask your employees, what do they need to be successful at home? If you haven't done that, do that. And then really listen. Listen to the reality of their situation. Empathize with those conditions. Some things you'll be able to change or improve for them. But other things you just won't be able to change. And all you can do is give them your understanding and your best support. But there are a couple of cool things I think you could do as a leader that are all under $100. If you have any budget, your company allows for that. Think about a lumbar support pad or some noise canceling headphones, maybe some lens cleaning wipes or blue light blocking glasses, or even a healthy lamp. These are all things that if they showed up on the door of your employee would be a delight to help them be successful. And I think that just could be a small thing that a company could do for their employees to make sure they're successful. And you could lead that as a leader. The second part of stability is psychological safety. And that, as I said, is belonging to a team and having the opportunity to interact with that team and contribute without fear or feeling like you could be punished for making a mistake or possibly rejected from your point of view. Right now with COVID-19, there's plenty of reasons that employees don't feel safe. They're struggling with stress and anxiety. And most of these things have nothing to do with you or your company. It's just they're worried about their health of their family members. They're worried about the economy. They're worried about job security, isolation. I mean, they're even worried about toilet paper, right? So many things that they're fearful of and concerned about. Don't add to the challenge by being an unattentive leader or a controlling leader in these conditions. This is the time to create psychological safety. Why it's so critical is because in ancient times, when we had our caveman brain, which we still have part of it in us, our caveman brain can be triggered. It was there to keep us safe. And even today, it can be triggered by an angry or an aggressive boss, a competitive coworker, or a dismissive subordinate, or anything that could be perceived as a life or death threat. It all happens in the amygdala, which is the alarm bell in our brain, and it ignites the fight or flight or freeze reaction. Even today, our caveman brain gets triggered. And when it does, it hijacks the higher level brain centers. And it shuts down our perspective, our analytical reasoning, and our creative problem solving. Right when we need it most, we might lose the capacity to really think clearly and solve problems. So this reaction and this sense we have in our caveman brain might have saved us in a life or death situation in the past, but it really blows up the strategic thinking we need in today's workplace. That's why safety is so important. We don't want those triggers to get in the way of the higher level thinking. When employees don't feel psychologically safe, their fears trigger survival instincts, and that diverts their productive energy into managing risks, self-preservation, avoiding perceived danger and pain. They often hide or freeze and get paralyzed. That's not going to help you. We got some great insight from a 2-year study that Google conducted called Project Aristotle, where they were trying to optimize the performance of teams. And they found that psychological safety was at the center of that. That it created better engagement. It helped employees release their discretionary efforts. It enabled them to have a willingness to innovate and challenge the status quo and therefore create more value. Creating psychological safety was at the center of this study. So you might ask yourself, do all your team members feel comfortable brainstorming and sharing ideas, being vulnerable? Do they feel like they could fail openly without being judged or shunned? How will working remotely worsen or better those conditions on your team? Those are some things you can think about. I love this quote by Dr. Amit Ray, who's an author and philosopher. In every crisis, doubt or confusion, take the higher path, the path of compassion, courage, understanding, and love. And then here's some great advice from a Harvard Business Review article. When you're thinking about people and helping them, or you've got a real challenge with someone, and you're worried about that, you're mindful about the caveman brain getting triggered, think about this. This person has beliefs, perspectives, and opinions just like me. This person has hopes, anxieties, and vulnerabilities just like me. This person has friends, family, and perhaps children that love them just like me. This person wants to feel respected, appreciated, and competent just like me. And this person wishes for peace, joy, and happiness just like me. Find the connections and not the differences amidst all this fear and all this uncertainty and all this volatility and all this disruption of our normal life. That is the key. And I believe the 4 most important words for today are replace blame with curiosity. Ask questions and listen. Ask questions and listen. Just be curious. Remember the Gallup study. Trust, compassion, stability, and hope. Those are the criteria of leadership that connect with people in times of crisis. So get curious. Ask members of your team these questions. What are you experiencing? How is working at home for you? What can I do to help? And what ideas do you have to make this better and to make our team stronger? You'll find some great answers. Get after getting the physical needs of the workplace addressed. That's a short-term and urgent need. And then continue to create psychological safety and a sense of belonging on your team. That will have short-term value, but even critical long-term value well beyond when we're sheltered in place at home. Thanks for being with me today, for listening. Please leave your comments, ideas, and what's working for you in any of the comments. And stay home and stay healthy.